Hello, and welcome back to Armchair Armory. And it is the final Armchair Armory video of the 2022-2023 season. And I thought I'd do something different this time around. I thought I'd make a bit more of an effort. I know that come sort of back end, sort of the turn of the new year, something like that, I went out and brought this camera that I'm looking into now, brought a better microphone and tried to improve what I was doing. But I thought I'd go one step further. I think one of the things I was thinking about for next season was to try and make this a little bit more professional and take it a little bit more seriously. So I decided to do what every other person in this YouTubing world does, particularly in the Arsenal world, and I decided to download StreamYard, sorry, or like sign up to StreamYard, which I have to thank Tom Canton of the Gooner Talk for that, because that's how I found out when I went on there which program he uses. So, where to begin? This season has been an eye-opener for me. Overall, if we go back slightly and we look at last season, as in 21-22, there are a lot of improvements. You could see what Mikel Arteta was trying to do. You could see the type of players he was bringing in, like Ramsdale and Ben White and people like that, Tomiyasu, people like that, trying to play a certain way. And there was definitely signs of an improvement there, but unfortunately we faltered right at the end. We lost embarrassingly to Tottenham and got completely played off the park by Newcastle at St James's Park, that all but ended our chance of getting into the top four. We missed out by 2 points, and we came away from that season feeling like, I don't know, I have no idea. We have no idea what it's going to be like next season. Now, this season, on the other hand, has been, for want of a better word, unbelievable in terms of it hasn't been like this since maybe like 09-10 or 15-16, where we've challenged for the title against a machine in Manchester City. In the latter days of Arsene Wenger and the kind of when he left and Unai Emery came in, and the kind of early days of Arteta, it was sort of, when are we ever going to get back to that again? And I believe that we've sort of been on this we were on this decline from about 2007 until maybe until May 2022. I'd say we're not even on the rise yet. We're kind of like rising. We're not on that maturity stage yet. So I went into this season kind of thinking we'll be lucky if we get top four. I thought we were going to finish fifth, because I saw the players that Spurs were signing. I saw the players that United were signing. Chelsea, Chelsea spent 600 million in this transfer in both across both transfer markets this season. And I thought to myself, yeah, there's no way we're going to be able to compete with them. And, Liverpool, despite the fact that, they didn't sign Cody Gakpo until January. Was it January? I don't remember. I think it was January. Yeah, I still thought that they'd be there with City. And then the season started, and I didn't see, to be fair, I didn't see much of the preseason. I know I did a few shows, preseason shows beforehand, but that was just to kind of go through what was going on at the time. I just watched highlights of those. I didn't actually look at anything that was, I didn't actually see the matches from start to finish, which was so, but from what I'd heard, we played very, very well in those games. I remember we beat Chelsea 4-0. And there was all this, particularly from the AFTV guys and people like that, ranting and raving about how amazing Saliba looked and all this kind of stuff. Whereas prior to that, a lot of people didn't think that he was going to be back playing for the club anymore after his loan spell at Marseille. And yeah, we go into the season. I'm just going to load up the fixtures. Bear with me. This is what I'm saying. I'm using this for the first time, so it's a bit of a a bit of a rough and ready situation. Hopefully, as I get used to using StreamYard, I'll get better at it. I should probably get some like hold music for this bit. No, I don't want that. Right. So now I'm going to go through the fixtures and kind of talk a little bit about each of them, or from my sort of memory across the season of them. So here we go. So as I mentioned, we had a pretty decent preseason. I mean, no one really takes preseason that seriously. I mean, I've seen the Manchester United fan I know that's been on this channel before. He gets very het up when Man United win comfortably in preseason, and it's like, well, it's preseason. At the end of the day, it's all there to see kind of what the new signings look like, if there are any new signings, like what's changed over the summer, that sort of thing. To some extent, to see the new kit, see them playing in the new kit, that kind of stuff. And just, it's just preparation, essentially. So you can't really take it seriously, whether you win, lose, or draw the games. But I suppose the two fixtures in preseason that stood out were the game against Chelsea in the Florida Cup, where we won 4-0, dominant from start to finish. I think it was 4-0 in like 30 minutes or something like that. And then the Emirates Cup game against Sevilla, which was 6-0, and Sevilla, who have won the Europa League, it was something weird that I didn't think I would see. I didn't see, even though it's preseason, I was like, there's something different this season. But I didn't let myself get carried away. I kind of went, okay, let's see what happens when we go into the season. We start the season Friday night at Selhurst Park. Last season, we lost there 3-0 or 3-1, I think it was. I can't remember. But again, similar to the Sevilla and the Chelsea game in preseason, we came out flying. We looked completely different from last season. Stronger, more hungry, quick passing, stuff we haven't seen for a long time, since kind of like the peak of Wenger, essentially. Came out winners 2-0 on that night. And I remember saying in my reaction to that, my first reaction of the season, that it was, I can't remember exactly, but yeah, I'm gonna have that open as well, like the playlist of Armchair Armory for that season. And yeah, the playlist for Armchair Armory for that season, for the season. And I want to remind myself of what I said. Of what my words were after Crystal Palace. I'm going to mute that. So my words after Crystal Palace were, if I can find it, can't see from here, it's too small. Yeah, a bit of yeah, as I said, rough and ready. An encouraging start was what I said. An encouraging start was the first, as you can see here, an encouraging start was the thing I said. And that is exactly what it was. It was one of those games where we looked so dominant that I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like, oh, wow, like this is a ground that we've struggled at in the past and we've managed to walk it, essentially. So then second game of the season, we went back to the Emirates, first home game against Leicester. And something strange happened in this game as well. You know, we'd already seen, I think Saliba started in the first game against Crystal Palace, and we could see, that was the first time I got to see how good he was. And yeah, just something about him changed the way that we were playing. You know, we were leaking goals for fun last season and the season before, and it just felt like his read of the game was so perfect. It's something that we haven't had since like Tony Adams and Sol Campbell and Martin Keown and Kolo Toure. You know, a proper defender. So yeah, the other, so that was just that. But then we go to the home fixture against Leicester City. Again, a team that we've struggled with over the past, you know, since their meteoric rise when they won the league in 15-16. And we went, you know, they equalized twice against us. And this was the first time I saw something different to last season, or to 21-22. In 21-22, we would have stayed at 2-2. Whereas this season, every time Leicester pulled one back, we went and made it more difficult for them. So that was something that was different. Bournemouth, then the next game, Bournemouth 3-0 away at the Vitality. You remember all those times in the last seasons of Wenger being 3-0 down to Bournemouth at half time, coming back to draw 3-3. This one was this game was easy. Saliba scored a mad goal from outside the area, mad for a centre half. Then Fulham at home, they took the lead. We came back. Again, something else that we hadn't seen throughout this entire season. Then we beat Aston Villa 2-1 at home. Another club last season and the season before that, you know, have wiped the floor with us, particularly at home, they have beaten us. Then we came to Manchester United at our first test, which I said after the game, we failed the mock test. This was the mock test for the season. But at the same time, even though we lost this game, I don't think that the score necessarily shows that United were dominant or United were the better side. I think they caught us on 2 counter-attacks, got goals from that. We had a goal disallowed I'm going to sneeze, sorry. Yeah. We are in literally like the first minute, we had a goal disallowed from Martinelli. And yeah, so I think even though we lost this game, we still looked pretty good. I think it was the first time I've ever seen us go to Old Trafford and like almost, you know, pretty much dominate them. You know, they had, as I said, they caught us on the counter attack twice, and that's why they got those 2 goals to make it 3-1. This is where I would say the season doesn't go to as amazing as a lot of other Arsenal fans are saying. I think our cup form this season has been pretty poor, to be fair. I'm not going to go too into the game against Zurich in Switzerland, but I will say that it was where I remember putting out a tweet saying that Marquinhos and Fabio Vieira look really good. And again, like this was actually a title that I thought that we could win. But I'll come on to that when we get towards the end of the fixtures. So Brentford, we all remember last season, Carragher and Neville dancing around at the Brentford Community Stadium after they battered us 2-0. And we went there and smoked them 3-0. And again, it was something that we needed to do. I think after last season, we needed to go to some of these grounds and right wrongs, essentially. And this was like another great performance. And Brentford have been really good this season. Then the big one, the first North London derby of the season at the Emirates. We win this 3-1, comfortable 3-1, despite the fact that I think Son scored. It's either Son or Kane, one of the two. No, it's Kane, penalty. Yeah. Then 3-0 against Bodø Glimt, which was a standard win. Then this was huge. this was absolutely huge. I was in, I forget, was I home or was I in at my grandfather's? I can't remember, but anyway, this was crazy. No, it wasn't. It wasn't my grandfather's. This was crazy. Like a game I never expected us to win. Like Liverpool have been battering us like hell over the past couple of seasons. 4-0, 4-1, 5-1, 4-3, blah blah. And we managed to beat them 3-2. I think Saka scored a penalty in like the 85th minute or something like that, and we narrowly beat. Well, even though we played really well in that game, we narrowly beat them 3-2. And again, this was another thing that made me think something's changed, where we're going up against these big teams or the teams that we would roll over for in the past. And sorry, I keep looking over. West Ham have just won the Europa Conference League. And that will come on to something I'll talk about after I've gone through these fixtures. So yeah, then we beat Bodo Glimt 1-0 away. Beat Leeds at Elland Road 1-0. Again, this is quite a hard fought game. We scored early, and Leeds were very good on that day. And it's one of those grounds where it's, when it gets on top of you, it's hard to deal with. So to come out of Elland Road with 3 points is, pretty good. So then the hardest team in the Europa League group was PSV Eindhoven, who we beat 1-0 at the Emirates. Then the first, other than the loss to Manchester United, I guess the first negative result of the season, where I saw, a lot of fans reacting badly to this. Our first draw at St Mary's, 1-1 with Southampton. Southampton have something on us. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, every time we play Southampton, we always either draw with them. But there's two things that happen. We either batter them or they either beat us or draw with us. I mean, that's the three things that can happen anyway. But yeah, it's always with Southampton. I've noticed it happen, but they've been relegated now, so that won't happen next year. Then, for me, the first poorest performance of the season up to this point, which was PSV away. I felt like we were completely rolled over in this game. Didn't turn up. Lost 2-0, which is, despite the fact that we were winning the group by quite far, it was quite bad, and I think it took it to the like last few games in the group stage before we ended up qualifying. Then a really dominant performance at home to Nottingham Forest, 5-0, which is contrast to what happened in the reverse fixture. We beat Zurich 1-0 in the Europa League at home, and then Chelsea, Stamford Bridge, another ground that we go to and normally get battered. You think of Wenger's 1000th game for Arsenal, losing 6-0. The 2-0 where the 2-0 or 3-0 where Hazard ran from the halfway line pretty much. One of the most dominant 1-0s I've ever seen. And again, this is one of the highlights of this season, that we went to big grounds and took those scalps, which, previous seasons we hadn't done. So then Brighton in the Carabao Cup. So this kind of reiterates my point about our cup form being really bad. The third round of the Carabao Cup, I didn't watch the game because it wasn't on TV, but I listened to it on Arsenal.com, and we got absolutely battered in this game. Then leading up to the final game before the World Cup in Qatar, go to Molineux, another stadium that we've gone to in recent times and lost pretty badly. I think we lost 3-0 there in Arteta's first full season. Go there, dominate, win 2-0. And then we break for the World Cup. And at this point, I was like, yeah, we're doing really well. Top at the break. Really good. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. The plan of Ben White at right back has worked really well. Saliba's been absolutely immense. Partey is at the top of his form. Xhaka's having the best season of his Arsenal career, behind last season, because he was probably one of our better players last season. Gabriel Jesus, Martinelli, Saka, all firing, blah, blah, blah. But I thought, don't get too ahead of yourself, because something might happen at the World Cup, which means it will delay our season. And lo and behold, what happened? Brazil, I think they had either their group stage or their quarterfinal round of 60. Somewhere they played. I think they played Cameroon, and Gabriel Jesus got injured. And then at that point, we were like, oh, bollocks, that's our season over. I was like, yeah, it's going to be hard for us to get results from here on in. No disrespect to Eddie Nketiah. I said on this very platform, on Tom's show, the Tom Canton show, the Gooner Talk, I said that it was a good thing that we should be keeping our academy players for as long as we can do. And, you know, Eddie's done all right when he's come in, particularly last season. He did really well. You think of that Chelsea game where I think that was at the Emirates. So, yeah. But I wasn't as confident because I knew that the goals would dry up. And, you know, this, even though Gabriel Jesus doesn't score, 20 goals a season, he does hold up play better than anyone else. Lacazette was okay at that, but like Gabriel Jesus is like a monster when it comes to hold up play and laying off to people behind him. And, Saka and Martinelli were just unstoppable on those wings. So going into the break, I was kind of like, we're going to see a different Arsenal after the World Cup. Unfortunately, I won't go too much into the post World Cup friendlies just because there's not really much point. And then we came back after the World Cup on Boxing Day 2022 to play West Ham United at the Emirates, who have just won, as I said, the Europa Conference League. And we beat them 3-1. Again, another team that has given us games over the years, and we've come unstuck. And we were amazing in that game. Yeah. So that was good. Then another tough game, Brighton at the Amex. And this is what I'm saying about that. They finished in the Europa in the Conference League position this season, and they've been, De Zerbi has done wonders with them after Potter left. He's kind of carried on from where Potter left off. And, even when Potter was there, like the Amex was a place where we would normally get our asses handed to us, essentially. Like you think of the 1-1 draw where, was it 1-1 or 2-1 to them? But anyway, where Leno got injured. But this time, again, quite a dominant performance, 4-2 win, looking good. Then we come back after the new year. We come back to the turn of the year. We come back to the Emirates to play Newcastle United, who at that point had been flying. And unfortunately, we draw 0-0. And it was still like a dominant performance. But I think what Newcastle did was stick 10 men behind the ball and, shithoused quite a lot, and then, got the point that they wanted. It was probably a better point for Newcastle than for Arsenal. So then the FA Cup begins. Again, even though we won this game quite comfortably, 3-0, our cup runs could have been a lot better this season. Then this is probably one of the most impressive away performances of the season. Something that, again, I haven't seen for 3 or 4 years, where we went to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the new White Hart Lane, and battered Tottenham. But absolutely, I mean, it should have been more than 2-0, but we battered them. And again, I haven't seen that for, I don't know, for a very, very long time. Then straight after that, we followed back with our 2000s rivals, title rivals, Manchester United at the Emirates, win that 3-2. Eddie Nketiah scores in the last minute of in the 90th minute. And it's always great winning a game in the last minute, but winning a game in the last minute against Manchester United is just absolutely fantastic. And then our first encounter with Manchester City this season, playing in the FA Cup, lose 1-0. And out of the 3 times we played City this season, this was probably the best performance of the 3. This was where I felt that we gave them a game at the Etihad. It's just that unfortunately there was a defensive error. Nathan Ake snuck in, got a goal. And you know what it's like when Pep knows it's a close game, he will defend that goal until the end. He'll sort of do a Mourinho, but not as like boring as Mourinho. So yeah, we ended up losing that, going out of the FA Cup early, 2 years in a row now, which isn't good. Then follow that up by a loss to Everton at Goodison Park. And a lot of people say that, and at this point we were like, I think we were 5 points clear at this point at the top of the league. And a lot of the time people do say that teams that win the league win at Goodison Park, which I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not entirely sure whether that's true or not. But yeah, like we just didn't look ourselves in this game. And, you know, they got a goal from a set piece and it just kind of petered out. But I had an argument with, not to say I'm any sort of like influencer or anything like that, but I had an argument with somebody on Twitter who was claiming that like Arteta needs to go because we lost to Everton. It's like, well, it's the first game that we've lost since September or November, I think it was. Yeah, no, September. September was when we lost to league game, the last league game we lost before this one. And I just couldn't believe what he was saying. So I was like, just wind your neck in and just sit on it for a while, because it's the first game we've lost since September. We're still 5 points clear. There's nothing to worry about at the moment. I mean, I look like a fool now saying that, but anyway. So then we host Brentford at the Emirates. I didn't see this game, but yeah, like I heard about the VAR controversy. Lee Mason forgetting to draw the lines on Brentford's goal, so that cost us 3 points and probably knocked our confidence going into the game against City at the Emirates, where they beat us 3-1 and deservedly beat us 3-1. I don't think this was probably like in the middle between the game at the Etihad in the league and the game at the Etihad in the FA Cup. I don't think we were. I think for about 20 minutes we were on top of them, and then Tomiyasu made a mistake and De Bruyne scored, and that was kind of game over from that moment on. That's kind of how it works with Man City. If they score first, you're fucked, basically. So yeah, so then it's all doom and gloom. City go above us on goal difference, and it's all doom and gloom, and we think to ourselves, oh no, the league's over. But we go to Aston Villa, we go to Villa Park, which again is another stadium that we've not fared well at recently. Win 4-2 with one of the most mad moments of the season, in my opinion, where Aston Villa take it back to 2-2. We're attacking up the other end. Ball comes into no, they were 2-1 up, weren't they? And then Zinchenko equalized, and then about 5 minutes later, Jorginho receives the ball, takes a shot, comes off the bar and bounces off the back of the head of Emi Martinez and goes in for 3-2. And then the fourth goal was Martinelli running from the halfway line to an open goal, essentially. It's just, it's crazy. And it's just poetic justice that, you know, after Emi Martinez is bitching about Arsenal, that happens to him against Arsenal. So then we go to the King Power. 1-0 win there. Again, it was quite a hard-fought game. I thought Leicester played quite well in this, from what I remember. But still, it was a gutsy performance to win there. Then our game in hand at Everton, which is where a lot of people that were getting too big for their boots were saying, if Arsenal win this, they win the league. We did win. We were absolutely outstanding on this day, 4-0. Then we went to Bournemouth. Then we come to, for a lot of Arsenal fans and probably for myself as well, the moment of the season. 1-0 down to Bournemouth after 30 seconds, pretty much. I think we were 2-1 down to them at some point, or 2-0 down, and we came back to win the game 3-2. Reece Nelson with a last minute goal, and it was absolutely unbelievable. I didn't see it. I heard it on the radio. Well, I was listening to it on the radio, and then I had to call my grandfather, and I was on the phone to him, and I was looking at the OneFootball app every 5 minutes. And when Reece Nelson scored, I was celebrating. I was sitting in a park at the time, and Reece Nelson scored. I was doing this like a nutter. I was going crazy. People looking at me like I was on something. But yeah, unbelievable. And this was the moment. I think up until this point, I've been quite grounded with the whole title chase. I was like, it's really good that we're doing this, but I don't think we're going to win the league, because this always happens to us where we do really well and then slip up right at the end. And I was really and when this happened, I was like, hope maybe this year this is going to be different, because in seasons past, even previous managers, we would have drawn that game 2-2. But the fact that we fought till the end and won the game is, I felt, was a change, and even still could be a change. Then we returned to the Europa League round of 16. We drew 2-2 with Sporting Lisbon. I actually missed most of this game just because I forgot it was on at 5:45. I think I said at the time I forgot, so I couldn't do a reaction to it or anything like that. I think it was already 2-2 at the time, so I didn't see any of the goals or anything like that. Then we go to Craven Cottage, where that's been a fortress for Fulham this season. Win 3-0, really impressive performance there. And then this is kind of where, again, I go into the negatives of this season. You know, it was a very poor performance at home to Sporting Lisbon. They score a worldie of a goal. As I said in my reaction to this, that it was sort of Ramsdale's Naeem moment, remembering Naeem from the halfway line against Seaman. And this was kind of Ramsdale's moment. And I think I forget who it was. It may have been Steve McManaman on BT Sport, said, you can't expect a goal like that to be scored and Sporting not win the game. So, and I sort of agree with that. When they scored that goal, it was like, yeah, there's only going to be one winner. If this goes to penalties, Sporting will probably win. And it's just a shame that we didn't have the sort of squad depth to take it all the way to the end, because this could have been a competition we could have won. Excuse me. Then we had a game at home against Crystal Palace, who I believe had just recently sacked Patrick Vieira. So won that 4-1, which was a good performance. Another good performance against Leeds at home, won that 4-1. And then this is where, you know, my instinct of what I said before the Bournemouth game came into play. And this seems to happen to Arsenal time and time again. Even when we were winning titles and winning FA Cups, you know, year in, year out, this always used to happen. We go to Anfield, absolutely smoked them for the first like half an hour, 2-0 up within half an hour. They get a goal back. A lot of people were saying that it wasn't the goal. It was when Granit Xhaka had an altercation with Trent Alexander-Arnold. What make of it what you will. I mean, I kind of think it's a bit of both. I think it was that, and then Salah scored, and then that kind of what woke up Anfield. And, you know, from the moment the whistle blew for the second half, they were all over us. And if it wasn't for Ramsdale coming in at the end and doing a last-ditch save against Konate, they probably would have beaten us. And as always, Bobby Firmino scores against us as well. But yeah, 2-2 at Anfield in context isn't too bad. Anfield is one of the hardest grounds to go to in the Premier League, and getting a draw there isn't too bad. It's an improvement from seasons past where we have got battered there quite often. I mean, the amount of 4-0s and 4-1s I've seen at Anfield over the past 5-6 years, or 5-6-7 years, has been insane. Then we go to the London Stadium again, a stadium that we've not done too badly at. I remember the Alexis Sanchez hat trick in 2016 or 17. But again, we were, for 10 minutes, we were like prime Brazil. We were like 1998 Brazil, 2-0 up within 10 minutes. It looked like it was going to be 5 or 6-0. And then Partey makes a mistake. Appealing for a handball, even while Declan Rice is tackling him. Declan Rice gets the ball away, puts the ball into somebody. I think it might have been Paqueta. I'm not sure. But anyway, they get a penalty, pull one back, go in at halftime 2-1. You're thinking the momentum is now with West Ham. We get a penalty, Saka misses, and then, you know, a couple of minutes after that, Bowen goes up and scores the other end. And it kind of peters out and ends 2-2. We can't find a way back into the game. And, you know, at this point, I wasn't necessarily thinking, oh, well, the league's over. I was like, oh, well, it's 2 points dropped. It's 4 points dropped over 2 games, but it's not the end of the world. But this is, for me, and I know a lot of people are saying Liverpool is when the league was lost, but for me, this is when the league was lost. At home to Southampton, who were rock bottom of the league at the time, favourites to be relegated early. 1-0 down within 25 seconds. Ramsdale goes for a pass into Partey, intercepted, 1-0. Then we go 2-0 down when Walcott's put through. And it's like, oh no. And at that point, I thought we were going to lose. Then we scored, we pulled one back, go in at halftime 2-1. They come out second half. I think it was around like the 80th minute. They score a third, 3-1 down. It's like, yep, game over now. And we scored 2 goals really late in extra time, and we could have won it. Reece Nelson also almost had a shot right at the end as well. That would have been mad if he scored that. But yeah, I think if we'd won that game, I think the next game that's coming up wouldn't have mattered whether we won or lost. So 3-3, and this is where I was like, with City coming up next, there's no way that we're going to beat City in the form that they are in. I think they were on an 11-game winning streak at this point, or 10-game winning streak at this point. And I was like, yeah, yes, it's great that we came back and we fought for the draw, but we had to win that game basically to stand a chance to pull away from City despite losing to them. Go to the Etihad. I think I remember where I was doing something with my work in Dulwich Park, which is in South London. We were like doing park maintenance, helping with park maintenance and stuff like that. And everyone was asking me about, how do you feel about it? And I was like, I kept just making jokes. I was like, I'm going to go home and watch City batter us and all this kind of stuff. But there was part of me that was like, maybe we'll turn up. Maybe we'll turn up and actually give them a game and win this 1-0. But, you know, my reaction to this game was only 2 minutes. And let me look and see how long it was. It was like 2 minutes or something. Yeah, 2 minutes 23 seconds was my reaction to that game. From the first minute, I'm quoting Lee Judges now, but I felt the same. From the first minute, it just didn't look like we were going to get anything out of the game. From the first minute, you knew City are going to win this. I didn't quite think they were going to win 4-1, and it's slightly flattering, but I knew we weren't going to win the game pretty much. And that was it. And that, for me, those 2 games were where the league went. It was like, yep, it's pretty much gone. It's gone. It's probably gone at this point. So then, even though these performances coming up here were quite good, I didn't necessarily think it was going to change anything, because I couldn't see. The only game I thought that City might lose or might drop points in would be against Everton. Lo and behold, they went and dropped point. They drew and lost in their final games against Brighton and Brentford. But they won the league by that point. And then, yeah, so then we come back to the Emirates, play Chelsea, absolutely destroy them, Chelsea, who have been piss poor this season. And then another game which I thought that we needed redemption in, but I wasn't sure about, was going up to St. James's Park to play Newcastle, who at this point had turned their fortunes around and had been battering Spurs 6-1 and being like 5-0 up at half time and that kind of stuff. But this was probably, along with the Spurs game, one of the best away performances of the season. I mean, I know that there's a Newcastle fan that I work with that like doesn't seem to think that we deserve to win this game, but he's wrong. We did deserve to win this game. Yes, one of the goals was an own goal, but, you know, and yes, you know, you hit the post, you hit the bar, but it doesn't matter. The goals didn't go in. All that matters is that what's on the end of the goals at the end of the game. And I think we were, for the most part, dominant. And it's another hard ground to go to. And then, you know, there was a little bit of hope at this point. After the Newcastle game, there was a little bit of hope of like, maybe if City drop points to Everton, maybe we can creep back in there. Earlier in the day, on the 14th of May, that rhymes, the City went to Goodison Park, scored within 20 minutes, won the game 3-0. And I think, I don't know whether the players did think this, but I think there was a point where most Arsenal fans thought, yeah, the league's over now. There's no way they're not going to go on and win it. And it kind of brushed off on the players because the performance against Brighton, where we lost 3-0, was awful. I mean, the goals we conceded were absolutely stupid, particularly the second and the third one. It was just like, how can the defending on both of the goals, the one from Undav and the one from Estupinian were terrible. Again, it was just, I think I said this in the reaction, it was quite a what can I say? Quite a flattering scoreline, but I think we gifted them pretty much all 3 goals. And then, even though we lost to Brighton, there was a point where we were like, maybe, we can do a Liverpool and go all the way to the last day of the season. If we beat Nottingham Forest at the City Ground, we could potentially take it to the last day. Go to Nottingham Forest, and this for me is probably the worst performance of the season. Like, we just didn't show up, gave them a goal early, and didn't even look like we cared. We were on the beach at this point. I mean, and essentially handed City the title, which is really, really disappointing. And one of the things I really wanted to do was not just hand them the title and just roll over and be like, oh, there you go, we give up. And this was kind of a bitter end to a really, really good season, league-wise anyway. Final game of the season was a 5-0 win over Wolves at the Emirates, and it's something that we always seem to do. Last game of the season, when the pressure's off, win a game 5-0, always seems to happen for some reason. It's been happening for as long as I've been an Arsenal fan. If we have a final game at home, or normally a final home game of the season, we always seem to win it like 4 or 5-0. So yeah, that's the season. And in general, as I said at the beginning, I think it's been really good for progression. If we're talking about progression, it's been a really excellent season for progression, and to show that we've stepped up slightly, and to show that Mikel Arteta has stepped up as a coach and all that kind of stuff. But I think overall, it's just been a good season. We come out with no trophies, no silverware. We went out of the cups early, which is disappointing. So overall, I'd say it's been a good season, a really good season. I'd say, not necessarily an excellent or a exceptional season. It's been a really good season. So now, as customary, we move on to what's next for season 23-24. And we look at the team for next season, and we look at what we need to do. So I'm going to do a quick round of sell, loan, keep, sell, loan, or whatever it's called. And talk a little bit about the players that we're linked with and what we might need. So Aaron Ramsdale, I would definitely keep. No questions asked for me. Like, yes, he's had some hairy moments here and there, particularly that moment in the Europa League, but I think he's made us better overall. And we haven't had like an exceptional goalkeeper for a long time. Matt Turner, a lot of people had their question marks over him in the beginning, but I think he's done well, and I think he can improve. So 2 of them I would keep. I think Karl Heinz going to be loaned out this season because I can't see him playing. So yeah, I can't see him playing. So I think he'll be loaned out. I think Kieran Tierney is probably going to go, as much as I'd like him to stay, because I think he's a quality player, and he was one of my favorite players. I think when he came in, he improved the team a lot. But I just think for what Arteta wants to do going forward, I don't think he works in that sense. Ben White, keep all day. Gabriel, keep all day. Saliba, no question, keep him. He's my player of the season. Like, I know a lot of people say Ødegaard, but yeah, I think he has been my player of the season. Like, that's 2 seasons in a row I've picked a defender. I think last season it was Tomiyasu. This season it's been Saliba. It's just a shame that he got injured at that time that he did. A lot of people will say that's what lost us the league, but I think, to some extent, yes, because defensive mistakes did cost cost us goals. But I think we just run out of steam at the end of the day. And also, it's an Arsenal thing. We've been doing it for years. Kiwior started off not great, but but I think yeah, he's probably going to stay. They're not going to sell him. Rob Holding. No, this is a tough one because I think people give Rob Holding too much stick, and I think he's an okay defender. He's just not necessarily on the level of he's just not necessarily on the level of, you know, where we want to be necessarily. But I think this is probably, he's been a great servant for the club, but I think this is probably the end for Rob Holding. I think we're going to sell him. Takehiro Tomiyasu, one of my favorite players at the moment, like great in the air, good reading of the game, can play across the defense. Keep for me. Zinchenko has been a game changer for us this season, doing that inverted left back role. Keep him. Midfielders, Thomas Partey, I would say keep. I think that even though he's fallen away towards the end of the season, I still think that judging by 70, 75, 80% of the season, he's been exceptional. So definitely keep. Saka, don't even have to say anything. Like, keep, definitely been one of the stars of the season, what the team revolves around, essentially. Ødegaard, again, very close player of the season for me, but just edged by Saliba. Again, we're really seeing him properly this season. We're really seeing him properly this season. He's added like end product now, and he's scoring goals. I think he's ended the season as our top scorer this season in the league. I don't know if that's overall, but yeah, keep, definitely. And he's been a great captain as well. And a Turkish from FTV said this, and I agree with him. We haven't had like an exceptional captain for a long time. Emil Smith Rowe, well, there were rumors that he was going to go, but apparently the club want to keep him. So I would say keep, because I still think that, you know, 2 seasons ago he was a revelation, and, you know, he's come off a bad injury, and I still think that there's a possibility he'll kick on. Jorginho, done all right. I don't think we're going to sell him, so we're going to keep him. I think Fabio Vieira, I don't want to say too much about him at the moment because he's only just come in. Even though he started well, he's sort of tailed off towards the end of the season, and I know, and I think it's hard for me to say. So I think next season will be when I have a verdict on him. Mohamed Elneny, again, great servant for the club, but I think it's time we sell him. I don't know if he'll be able to step into that kind of Partey Xhaka role going forward. I know he's had an extension on his contract, but I don't think he'll be here at the start of next season. Granit Xhaka, I'd love to keep just for one more year. I'm really sad that he's going. It looks like he's going to Bayer Leverkusen next season. But yeah, it's the last 2 seasons he's been exceptional, and it would have just been nice for that if we bring in another midfielder that will play his role, just someone to kind of ease that transition. But it looks like if we do bring in that midfielder, they're going to have to hit the ground running. Gabriel Jesus, keep. There's no point in even debating whether we're going to sell him. Gabriel Martinelli, keep. Again, one of the best players of the season, up there with Ødegaard and Saka and Saliba, like the Holy Trinity, part of the Holy Trinity. Yeah, he definitely is keep for me. Nketiah, again, average. He's had an average season. We haven't seen him since Trossard come in very much, but I think his time is running out, and I think we probably will sell him. Trossard is a keep. He's probably been one of the signings of the January transfer window. I think that it was a brilliant piece of business after the Mudryk drama, and I think he's done really well since he's come in. Reiss Nelson, looks like we're going to keep him, but I have a feeling, I don't know. I'd have to see who we bring in. Again, I believe that we should be keeping our academy players. because like deep down I would want to keep Nketiah as well, but I just feel like he's getting to the point where he feels like he needs to play more football. I think we will keep Nketiah, to be honest. I changed that, and I think we will keep Nelson. So yeah, the on loan players, bloody hell. Right, Renison, we're going to sell. I don't think we'll ever see him in an Arsenal shirt again. He's only made one appearance for Arsenal. After Okonkwo, I think we're going to sell him. Cedric, we're going to sell. I think Nuno Tavares. I actually think he might come back. I think he'll come back and be a backup to Zinchenko, because he's kind of, even though he's more of a winger, even though he's a left back, but he plays more like a attacking winger. I think he's more likely to be molded into a backup to Zinchenko rather than, defensive like Tierney. Pablo Mari, I think, is gone. I think he was just a stopgap. He was never someone that was going to be with us forever. I think Austin Trusty, even though he's had a decent loan spell at Birmingham, I think he'll be loaned out again. I don't think he'll come in. I'd be very surprised if he comes in. I better get a drink of water after this. My throat's killing me. Which is proof I don't talk too much. Maitland-Niles, I think, is gone. I think I think after the fact that he's been kicking up a fuss about not getting first team football and all that rubbish, I think his attitude stinks to me, and I think he's going to be sold. Lokonga, I'd give Lokonga another chance. Maybe loan him out again, but I think I'd give Lokonga another chance. I think Pepe's gone now that Trossard is in. I think, there was a lot of hype around Pepe when he came in, one of the most exciting young players in Liga at the time, and he just hasn't really hit the heights. Although he did okay. I think he scored quite a few goals for us, but I don't think he's been, what we expected him to be. So yeah, I think we will sell him. I think we will cash in, and it's a shame because we spent 70 million on him, and we're not going to get anywhere near that. Following Balogun, I think he's gone. Whether I'd want to keep him. If I had to choose between Balogun and Nketiah, I'd keep Balogun just because he seems more of a prolific goal scorer, and he's had an amazing loan spell at, I think it was Rennes that he's at. But yeah, I think he's gone. I think he wants first team football, and I think he's gone. Marquinhos, probably would have to loan him out again. Still quite raw. So yeah, that's that. And then in terms of who we might bring in, obviously we're linked with Declan Rice. We're heavily linked with Declan Rice. I didn't hear if he probably was asked questions about his future and stuff like that after West Ham winning the Europa Conference League, but obviously he probably won't answer questions like that. I think it would be really good if we did get him. But it's one of those things that I'm a little bit worried about, because I feel like Arsenal won't pay the money that they'll reach the ceiling. I wouldn't necessarily say that he's worth 100 million, but like, I think that there's going to be a point where like another club's going to come in and say we can afford to pay that and blow us out of the water. There's also Caicedo, who played really well against us this season and has been really good for Brighton. But I think it's not going to be both of them. It's either going to be Rice or Caicedo. I think we do need a backup right back for Ben White. I think we probably do need another striker, if a striker that's more likely going to score you 20 goals a season. But then it becomes the whole point of, what does Gabriel Jesus get annoyed with that, because he's going to go back to being what he was at City and all that kind of thing. But I think we do need that. I think we need backup for Gabriel as well. And yeah, so we'll just have to see. Like, I don't really like to talk about transfers too much because it's all speculation until it's official, essentially. So we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see what happens. So yeah, overall, that's my review of the season and kind of a little bit of touching on what could happen next season. I think the future looks bright at the moment, although there is part of me that's a little bit worried that an Ollie is going to happen to Arteta, where, he finishes second and they have a really good... I mean, I don't necessarily think that United had a played really good football under Ollie when they finished second. but I'm worried that like next season won't be as exciting as this season. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm really worried about that. So yeah, that's the end of the season. That's it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at PI_FOGTV. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for those who have, I said this at the end of the Brighton preview, but I just want to say thank you for those who've tuned in this season and have enjoyed what I've done. I've noticed that my viewership has gone up slightly, so that's really encouraging to see that people either like what I'm saying or are laughing at what I'm saying. But either way, it's still traffic, so that's good, I suppose. So yeah, I'm going to take a break now. As I do, I'm going to take a break, and I will see you again in July, Armchair Armory wise. I'm going to try, in terms of the rest of the channel, I'm going to try and do more once all the rubbish in my personal life is sorted out. But yeah, Armchair Armory will hopefully be back in July. So yeah, again, thank you for watching. And as always, take care and stay safe.